She didn't knock. She didn't yell first. She just walked onto our lawn like she owned it and swung a metal bat straight at my daughter's legs. I saw it all from the upstairs window. My 5-year-old screaming on the grass, clutching her knees, her pink tricycle tipped over beside her. And standing over her was her, Karen, the HOA president. The one who always said, "This neighborhood has standards." The one who once left a fake violation note on our door, just because we had a barbecue, grill on the porch. But today wasn't about rules. Today was personal. She hit my daughter, and she looked right at me after doing it. I had my phone in my hand already. Not because I expected this, because she'd been escalating things for weeks. Filming us, sending letters, screaming about our grass being too long by half an inch. But this was different. This was violence. My wife ran downstairs the moment she heard the scream. She didn't even grab her shoes. I was still frozen at the window, filming, holding our baby boy, not blinking. My heart was thumping so loud I couldn't even hear Karen's voice clearly, but I saw her mouth move. "Keep your trash kids off my sidewalk." Sidewalk? My daughter was 3 feet onto our own lawn. She wasn't even riding, just drawing butterflies with chalk. Karen turned and walked away like nothing happened. No panic, no guilt. She didn't know I caught it all on camera. She didn't know who she just messed with. Because see, I don't talk much in this neighborhood. I keep to myself. Let them gossip. Let them assume. But what Karen didn't know was that before I moved here, I spent 12 years in federal law enforcement. And I still have friends in very high places. You just turned this into a federal matter, Karen. My wife was on the ground, holding our daughter, trying to calm her down. She looked up at me, eyes full of panic. "Call 911, she shouted. I already had. But not just them. I made 2 calls, one to emergency services and one to someone Karen would never expect. Karen stood at the edge of her porch now, arms crossed, watching us like we were the problem. The moment she saw my wife comforting our daughter, she yelled out loud enough for the whole street to hear, "I warned you. I told you she wasn't allowed to ride that thing around here." That thing? She meant a tricycle. A plastic pink tricycle with butterfly stickers. And she hit a child over it. Sirens came fast. But before the cops arrived, 2 men in suits pulled up in a black SUV. No sirens. No fuss. Karen didn't even notice them walk up the driveway. One of them nodded at me. "You got footage?" I held up the phone. Crystal clear. Karen must have heard that because she suddenly screamed from her porch. "That video's illegal. You can't film me on private property." I looked at her, calm, collected. "This isn't your property, Karen. You're standing on mine." She marched over, waving a clipboard like it was a weapon. "This is HOA jurisdiction. I am the HOA. And that child, she assaulted me first with that toy bike." The officer who arrived second, a local, walked up to her slowly, looked at her bat still lying on the grass and asked, "So, you're admitting you struck a 5-year-old? Karen's mouth froze. She blinked. It was a warning tap. They were threatening me. One of the men in the suit, Agent Collins, turned to me and asked, "You want to press charges now or wait till we brief the local unit?" I replied without looking at Karen, "I'm not pressing anything yet. I'm filing federal charges. That's assault on a minor with a deadly object." Karen laughed nervously. "You can't do that. Who even are you?" I finally looked her in the eye. "I'm the reason you're about to lose everything. You didn't hit a child, Karen. You hit the daughter of a former federal prosecutor, and I recorded every second." Karen's face went pale like someone yanked the blood right out of her. She blinked fast and laughed like it was all some joke. "You're bluffing. This is HOA business. You can't bring federal into HOA matters." Agent Collins stepped forward and held up a badge. Not local police, but U.S. Department of Justice. Karen's lips parted. No sound came out. "I'm going to advise you stop talking," he said firmly. "Everything from this point can be used against you." Still, Karen didn't get it. She turned to the local cop and screamed, "Are you seriously going to let them do this? He's harassing me. He's threatening me in front of my own house." The officer didn't even look at her. His eyes were locked on the bat in the grass, and the little girl still crying quietly in her mother's arms. "You know we have body cams, right?" he muttered. Karen spun back to me. "Fine, you want war? You'll get it. I'm calling the HOA board. We'll evict you today. Today." I almost smiled. This is what she didn't understand. We didn't rent this home. We owned it. And not just the house, we owned the land under it. The documents were in my safe, signed by the county and the HOA. It wasn't even legally active anymore. It had expired last year. Karen had been faking it the whole time. I walked over to our mailbox and pulled out the envelope. I'd been saving for weeks, certified. Mail from the county registrar. I held it up in front of the officers. This right here? This says I'm the legal owner of this property. The HOA was dissolved in May. Karen's been impersonating an officer and issuing fake fines. Agent Collins took the envelope, scanned the seal, nodded slowly. Karen's voice cracked now. No. That's not true. I filed paperwork. You filed nothing, I cut in. You've been scamming this whole street. That clipboard of yours? Worthless. You forged HOA notices. You used a bat on a child. And you think I'm in trouble? Karen started backing up. Then out of nowhere, another woman from down the street shouted, "She did the same to my son last month. And told me he couldn't prove it." Another neighbor stepped out next. She towed my car for parking in my own driveway. People started coming out of their homes one by one. Voices rising, stories pouring out. Karen wasn't just exposed. She was surrounded. Turns out the whole neighborhood was waiting for someone to finally stand up to her. And today, that someone was me. Karen's mouth was open, but no words came out. Her hand was shaking, gripping that clipboard like it could still save her. But the street had turned. Neighbors she used to bully were now standing at the edge of their lawns. Phones out, recording, nodding, speaking up. She threatened to fine me $500 for planting sunflowers. She told my wife to go back where she came from. We were born here. She made my daughter cry every day walking home from school. Karen tried to cut in. They're lying. They're all making this up because I actually follow the rules. But the more she yelled, the smaller she looked. Her voice cracked. Her hair was messy. Her power gone. Agent Collins stepped aside as two uniformed deputies pulled up. Real ones, county sheriff's office. One of them walked up with a calm voice and said, "Ma'am, we need you to come with us. You're being placed under arrest for assault with a weapon, impersonating an HOA officer, and falsifying legal documents." Karen gasped. I was trying to help this neighborhood. These people are animals. He cuffed her mid-sentence. My daughter was now calm, her head resting on her mother's chest. She was holding her favorite stuffed bunny tight. The one Karen once said looked trashy on the porch. One neighbor, an older vet who lived 3 houses down, walked up to me, shook my hand and said, "Didn't think anyone had the guts to take her down." "You did good, sir. Real good." I nodded and handed him a copy of the video file, in case she tries to twist anything in court. Agent Collins looked over and smirked. "She won't. We've been tracking a string of fake HOA violations in this county. Karen just made our job a lot easier." Karen was now crying in the back seat of the sheriff's car. Her mascara was running. Her clipboard lay in the gutter. One neighbor shouted, "Hey, Karen, who's lowering property values now?" People laughed. Some even clapped. But I didn't. I wasn't smiling. I was just holding my daughter. Because I knew this wasn't over yet. Karen had one last move planned, and she thought we'd never see it coming. The street had finally gone quiet. Karen was gone. Sirens faded into the distance. My daughter was resting inside, an ice pack on her leg, her bunny still in her arms. My wife sat beside her, rubbing her hair gently, whispering comfort. But I was still by the window. That's when I saw it. A black SUV parked 3 houses down, engine running, windows tinted. It had been there earlier too, but I thought it belonged to one of the neighbors now. Something felt off. The car didn't move even after everything that happened. No one got out. No one opened a window. It just sat there watching. I grabbed my phone, zoomed in. The license plate was covered. That wasn't normal. I called Agent Collins. "Yeah?" He answered immediately. "There's a black SUV parked on the west side of the street. It's been here a while. I think Karen wasn't working alone." There was a pause. "You're good," he said. "I was just about to call you." We traced Karen's phony HOA notices to a third-party address, a P.O. box in another state. Looks like she was being coached. I felt it in my gut. "So this isn't over?" "Not yet," he replied. "And there's something else. You said your security system caught everything from the window, right? Yeah, why? Someone hacked it. The last 12 hours of footage is gone from the cloud. My stomach dropped. I ran to my home server. The local backup drive, the red light was blinking. It had been tampered with. Wiped clean. I pulled open the drawer next to my desk and entered a code. Inside was a second drive, offline, disconnected, hidden. I plugged it in. Held my breath. The footage was still there. I watched it again. Karen swinging that bat. My daughter falling. Her face full of rage, her lips mouthing something after she looked up at me. But this time, I noticed something I missed. Behind Karen, parked at the corner, was the same black SUV. This wasn't about the tricycle, or sidewalk chalk, or grass height. Karen had been watching us, and someone was watching her. That bat wasn't just a weapon, it was a message. And we were never her only target. I didn't sleep that night. Neither did my wife. We took turns watching the cameras, every corner of the house, every movement on the street. And that SUV, it was gone by midnight. Quiet, no engine sound, no lights, just vanished. But the next morning something even worse showed up. A letter, no stamp, no address. Just a plain white envelope slipped under our front door. Inside was a single page, typed, no name. This isn't about your daughter. It's about you. Stay quiet or more than your grass will bleed. My hands went cold. I read it twice, then handed it to my wife without saying a word. Her face changed instantly. No fear, just rage. She grabbed her phone and made a call I'd only heard her make once before. This is Special Agent Harper. Badge 2938. I need an intel sweep and vehicle. Trace on a potential retaliatory cell. Immediate priority. I looked at her, stunned. You're activating credentials? She nodded. I wasn't going to. Not unless they crossed the line. But they hit our daughter. See, what no one in this neighborhood knew, not Karen, not the board, not even most of our family, was that before my wife became a mom, she trained federal SWAT units, tactical ops, undercover infiltration. She walked away from it when she got pregnant. But now the gloves were off. 3 unmarked vehicles showed up by noon. No lights, just quiet professionals. A man handed me a phone with a live feed already running. They'd hacked the security cam from the corner grocery store 2 blocks away. I watched the SUV from last night pull into a private warehouse. No plates, 2 men stepped out. One of them was wearing a jacket with a symbol on the back. I froze. That symbol, I hadn't seen it in years. It was a fake security company. I helped shut down in a property scam case almost a decade ago. They had been impersonating HOA enforcement, issuing fake citations, towing cars, blackmailing homeowners. Karen was working for them, or worse, she was part of them. Agent Collins called me within the hour. We've confirmed your suspicion. Karen's HOA wasn't just fake. It was part of a larger ring. Real estate fraud, forced buyouts, harassment. Your family wasn't the first target, but you might be the first to fight back. My jaw clenched. So what now? We go public. I nodded. Good, because I've got every second of it saved. And by tonight, the entire country will know what Karen really was. They tried to take down a quiet family, but they forgot we don't back down. We build cases. By sunset, every news outlet had it. The footage, the threats, the arrest, the secret HOA scam. I uploaded the video with one line. She hit my daughter with a baseball bat and smiled at the camera. Within hours, it went viral. People from all across the country commented, mothers, veterans, lawyers, thousands of them. Arrest her. Protect that child. That man's a hero. News vans started parking on our street. Reporters knocked nonstop. But we didn't speak, not yet. We were waiting for one more thing. Karen had posted bail, somehow. Less than 24 hours later, she walked out of county jail wearing sunglasses and an ugly smirk. She didn't even try to hide. And then, boom. Footage dropped. Not mine, theirs. Agent Collins released the warehouse surveillance to federal press. Full expose. Karen not just faking HOA roles, but also meeting with the 2 men from the fake security firm, discussing payments, threat plans, forced home seizures. And in the middle of that video, her voice loud and clear. That guy's too quiet. His wife doesn't talk either. Probably hiding something. If we scare him enough, they'll move out in a week. The entire country turned. Karen wasn't just a Karen anymore. She was the face of a federal criminal ring. Twitter renamed her HOA Mafia Karen. But the final twist, one of the men from the warehouse caught on tape turned out to be a real estate developer. A rich, powerful man who had been using fake HOAs to drop property prices and buy them back cheap. Guess whose property they were targeting next? Mine. And guess who had filed a quiet legal claim 2 weeks ago to try and void our deed? Karen. She wasn't acting alone. She was following orders. She wasn't mad about tricycles or grass. She was trying to force us out, just like they'd done to 5 other families. But she chose the wrong house, because that morning we walked onto our porch, together. Me, my wife, my daughter. Reporters aimed their cameras, and I spoke into the mic. To everyone watching, this isn't just about my daughter. It's about every American family who's been bullied, silenced, or scared off their own land. Not anymore. That clip went everywhere. Karen watched it from home. And minutes later, the FBI raided her house. She tried to use fake power. We used the law. And in the end, justice didn't knock. It kicked the door down. Karen's arrest was just the start. Within 48 hours, the whole operation began to crumble. The fake HOA network she was part of spanned across 3 counties. Dozens of homeowners came forward. Families who had been fined, harassed, even evicted. Some were immigrants who didn't speak English well. Some were veterans. Some were elderly. All had one thing in common. They were targeted for being easy to push out. Turns out Karen was their point person, the friendly neighbor who smiled on the outside and sent threats in the mail. She'd issue fake violations, then send a man in a suit to offer to buy them out, cheap, fast, under pressure. But the mistake they made? They tried to do that to us, and we recorded everything. My wife sat with federal agents connecting dots no one else could see. She pulled up satellite maps, linked bank accounts, traced property transfers. She hadn't touched a badge in 5 years, but it was like muscle memory. They weren't just harassing people, she said. They were laundering money through shell properties. Agent Collins nodded. She's good, he whispered to me. She's better than good, I said. She trained half your agency. Meanwhile, Karen's house got seized. They found forged documents, fake HOA letterheads, even a notebook full of personal info on local families, who to target, who to threaten, who to avoid. My daughter's name was circled, twice. That's when I lost it. But instead of rage, I used it. I went on national TV, sat down with one of the biggest anchors in the country. Calm, focused, I told our story. Not for views, not for fame, but for every family who didn't have the training, the proof or the backup to fight back. We almost stayed quiet, I said. But when someone hits your child, silence becomes surrender. Karen's arrest was just the start. Within 48 hours, the whole operation began to crumble. The fake HOA network she was part of spanned across 3 counties. Dozens of homeowners came forward. Families who had been fined, harassed, even evicted. Some were immigrants who didn't speak English well. Some were veterans. Some were elderly. All had one thing in common. They were targeted for being easy to push out. Turns out Karen was their point person, the friendly neighbor who smiled on the outside and sent threats in the mail. She'd issue fake violations, then send a man in a suit to offer to buy them out, cheap, fast, under pressure. But the mistake they made? They tried to do that to us, and we recorded everything. My wife sat with federal agents connecting dots no one else could see. She pulled up satellite maps, linked bank accounts, traced property transfers. She hadn't touched a badge in 5 years, but it was like muscle memory. They weren't just harassing people, she said. They were laundering money through shell properties. Agent Collins nodded. She's good, he whispered to me. She's better than good, I said. She trained half your agency. Meanwhile, Karen's house got seized. They found forged documents, fake HOA letterheads, even a notebook full of personal info on local families, who to target, who to threaten, who to avoid. My daughter's name was circled, twice. That's when I lost it. But instead of rage, I used it. I went on national TV, sat down with one of the biggest anchors in the country. Calm, focused, I told our story. Not for views, not for fame, but for every family who didn't have the training, the proof or the backup to fight back. We almost stayed quiet, I said. But when someone hits your child, silence becomes surrender. Within days, a new bill was introduced in the state Senate, the Homeowner Protection Act, to outlaw fake HOAs. criminalize impersonation of housing officials, and provide legal support to victims. They named it after my daughter. And Karen? She got hit with 17 federal charges: conspiracy, assault, fraud, identity theft, wire fraud, and racketeering. Her bail was revoked. She screamed in court, blamed everyone. Even the judge rolled his eyes. But the real moment? The day her own neighbors, people she bullied for years, showed up in court, sat behind us and clapped when the cuffs went back on. She built her kingdom on fear. We tore it down with truth. 3 months later, our street looked different, quieter, lighter. Kids rode bikes again. Neighbors waved without fear. The old HOA sign that Karen had hammered into the entrance, fake, rusted and crooked, was finally torn down. We all gathered and watched it fall like it was some monument to everything we'd been through. My daughter, now healed and smiling, rode her pink tricycle straight over the spot it used to stand. No one stopped her. No one dared. We held a community barbecue that weekend. Real unity. Real neighbors. Not one person mentioned grass height, fence color, or mailbox design. It wasn't about rules anymore. It was about people. One neighbor stood up, raised a toast, and said, "To the family that stood up when the rest of us were too scared to." I didn't speak. I didn't need to. But my wife did. "We didn't come here to fight," she said, holding our daughter close. But we weren't going to let someone teach our kids that silence is safer than justice. The crowd applauded, not loud or forced, but honest. News crews showed up again, but this time not for drama. This time they were covering change. The Homeowner Protection Act passed, signed into law. Across the country, other fake HOAs began to get exposed. Karen's name became a warning, a reminder of what unchecked power looks like in the wrong hands. Her trial ended with a full conviction. No plea, no deals. 24 years, no parole. And when the verdict was read, she finally stopped talking. Outside the courthouse, I gave one last statement. I didn't serve this country, raise my family, and pay for this land just to be told we don't belong. We all belong. And nobody has the right to take that from us. We went home. No more reporters. No more threats. Just us safe together. And as I stood at the window where it all began, watching my daughter draw chalk butterflies again, I whispered to myself, "This time," she smiled back, "subscribe my YouTube channel for more stories."